Let me ask you something. Do you remember who you were before the world told you who to be? I'm not talking about titles or roles or all the labels you've collected over the years. I'm talking about you that showed up the day you were born. The one that didn't need permission to scream, to laugh, to demand, to want. That version of you, that version was pure fire. No hesitation, no fear, just energy, raw, unfiltered, undeniable life force. You weren't born scared. You were born wired to expand. That fire, that unshakable drive you had as a child to touch, to try to push limits, it didn't go anywhere. You didn't lose it. You buried it. And I get it. Life happens. You got rejected, criticized, maybe even punished just for showing up as your full self. So you pull back. You dimmed your light just enough to fit in, just enough to be accepted. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Fitting in is a cage. Acceptance without authenticity is a lie. Because deep down, you know there's more in you. You can feel it in your gut, can't you? That tension between who you're being and who you really are, that restlessness, that quiet frustration. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's your fire trying to break through the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning. You weren't put on this earth to tiptoe through life, hoping not to wake the voices of judgment. You were born to ignite, to burn so bright that people feel it when you walk into a room. You were born to be the one who raises the standard, not survives beneath it. That fire, it's your original state. That's the real you. But let's be real. Somewhere along the way, life taught you to be afraid. Maybe it came in the form of a parent who didn't know how to handle your energy, or a teacher who told you to sit down and stay quiet, or a moment where you took a risk and it blew up in your face. That's how fear gets in. It sneaks in when we're most impressionable, and it convinces us that our fire is dangerous. But listen to me right now, fear is a liar. Fear is the mask pain wears. Fear is nothing more than a story, one you've been reciting so often, you forgot it was optional. See, the problem isn't that you're afraid. Everybody feels fear. The problem is you started to believe it meant something about you, that it meant you weren't good enough or ready or worthy. And that's just not true. The fire inside you, it's still alive. Maybe it's been reduced to embers, but it's there. And the moment you stop feeding fear with your focus, that fire reignites. The moment you decide to stop waiting for perfect timing, stop needing everyone to understand you, stop asking for someone else's approval to be who you already are, that's the moment everything changes. But here's the true thing, the fire doesn't come back on its own. You've got to fan it, you've got to feed it, you've got to move. Fear wants you to freeze, to stall, to shrink, but your soul was made to take ground. You're not meant to shrink into spaces you've outgrown just to make others comfortable. You're meant to expand, to evolve, to set new standards for what's possible. That ache in your chest when you see someone else doing what you know you're capable of. That's your fire, that pain you feel when you're playing small and you know it. That's your fire, that little whisper that says, this isn't who you are, when you're in a room that doesn't honor your greatness. That's your fire. So don't call it anxiety. Don't call it confusion. Call it what it is, potential. And potential has one job: to be unleashed. You were born with fire, not fear. The fear is learned. The fire is your nature. And you don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop letting fear drive the car. You've let fear run the show long enough. It's time to take the wheel back. Your fire is what people need. Your fire is what breaks cycles. Your fire leads your family, your business, your mission, your life. But if you keep denying it, if you keep playing the game of, I'm not ready, or what if I fail, you'll wake up one day not with regret for what you did, but with heartbreak for what you never became. You were never meant to be tame. You were meant to be free. You were never meant to blend in. You're meant to blaze trails. You were born with power, intensity, hunger. You ever feel like something's off, like you're walking through life, checking all the boxes, doing all the right things, but deep down, you're still not, that's not in your head. That's not some passing mood. That's truth trying to get your attention. Because here's the reality. Most people aren't living as themselves. They're living as a version of themselves, a version that's been edited, filtered, boxed in by what they were told to be. And over time, that version starts to feel real. But it's not. It's conditioning, it's programming, and it's caging the hell out of who you really are. See, from the time you were a kid, you were being shaped, not by truth, not by your own instincts, but by other people's fears, their rules, their expectations, their broken models of what's acceptable. You were told to calm down when you were passionate, told to sit still when your body wanted to move, told to stop dreaming so big, told to be realistic, told to get your head out of the clouds and stay inside the lines over and over again. until one day you just did. That voice you hear in your head that says, I'm too much or I'm not enough. Guess what? It's not even your voice. It's someone else's garbage that you accidentally accepted as truth. You weren't born timid. You were taught to doubt. You weren't born second-guessing yourself. You learned to hesitate. You were conditioned by repetition, by experience, by pain. And let me tell you something powerful. Conditioning is not your identity. But man, is it convincing? Because the cage isn't always made of steel. Sometimes it's made of smiles, politeness, approval. Good job. Nice work. All those little rewards for falling in line and not rocking the boat. Every time you shrink, you get praised. Every time you play small, people applaud your humility. And you think maybe this is the right way, but what it really is a trap. You start to trade your authenticity for acceptance. You start a truth for validation, and it feels good in the moment, right? It's safe. It's clean. You avoid conflict. You avoid judgment. You avoid rejection. But the problem is you also avoid yourself. You can't live a powerful life while pretending to be someone you're not. You just can't. It doesn't work. That's why you feel stuck. That's why you feel like something's missing. Because it is. You are missing the real you, the bold you, the hungry you. You've been told to stay humble. Don't brag. Don't get too big. Keep your head down. What do you think you are? Let me answer that. You're powerful. You're capable. You're not broken. You're buried. And it's time to start digging. You've got to unlearn the lies. Because for every you're too loud, there's a voice in you screaming to be heard. For every you're too intense, there's a fire waiting to be unleashed. For every time they said, don't get your hopes up, your soul wanted to scream, watch me. But you stopped. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were convinced you were too much. You didn't fail, you conformed. And that's the tragedy. And you know what makes it harder. The cage is invisible. It doesn't rattle when you shake it because it lives in your thoughts, your habits, your beliefs. It shows up when you hold back your opinion because it's not worth the argument. It shows up when you stay in a job that crushes your spirit because at least it's stable. It shows up every time you silence your intuition and listen to the fear that's been branded as wisdom. But here's the truth, and your identity was never meant to be downloaded. It was meant to be discovered, forged, lived. You don't find yourself by staying in the lines. You find yourself when you break them. You were never supposed to blend in. You were supposed to break the pattern. But you can't do that if you're still playing by the rules that were handed to you by people who were scared of their own potential. You've got to get raw. You've got to strip it all back. Every label, every story, every role that doesn't feel like home anymore. Who are you when you stop performing? Who are you without the mask? That's where freedom starts. That's where power lives. You don't need more self-help. You don't need more motivation. You need permission, and not from me, from you. You've got to look in the mirror and say, no more pretending. No more playing small. I'm done living someone else's script. Because the longer you wear the mask, the more the real you suffocates underneath it. And one day, if you're not careful, the world won't even remember who you were meant to be. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you told yourself the truth? I don't mean the filtered version. I don't mean the answer that makes you look good, sound smart, or avoid judgment. I mean the raw, uncut, inconvenient, sometimes ugly truth about where you really are, who you really are, and what you're really doing with your life. See, we all want change. We all want more joy, more impact, more freedom, more connection. But we don't get any of it without one thing, radical honesty. And I'm not talking about being honest with other people. That's the easy part. You can tell the world whatever you want and still be hiding. I'm talking about being honest with yourself.
Completely, unapologetically, brutally. Yeah.
Because here's the deal. Most people aren't stuck because of their circumstances. They're stuck because of the lies they keep telling themselves. Lies that sound like, I'm fine. I'm doing my best. I'm just not ready yet. This is just how life is. I'll get to it eventually. You hear those. Those are the bars of the prison. That's the soft language of avoidance. And look, I'm not judging. I've been there. We've all been there. It's human to want to protect ourselves from pain, to smooth the edges, to tell a story that feels easier to carry than the truth. But comfort kills transformation. And honesty, that's the wake-up call. Because the moment you get radically honest about what's working, what's not, what you're running from, what you're pretending not to know, that's the moment you take your power back. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. You can't grow if you keep pretending everything's not that bad. If your relationship's dead, say it. If your job's draining the life out of you, call it out. If you've got habits that are stealing your potential, stop making excuses and own it. If you've been talking about the same dream for 5 years and haven't moved an inch, don't sugarcoat it, say the truth. That truth, it might stink, but it also sets you free. You want real freedom. I'm not talking about money or time or getting to work from a laptop on a beach. I'm talking about the kind of freedom where you wake up and you don't feel like you're lying to yourself anymore. Where you look in the mirror and there's no more pretending, no more editing, just clarity, just alignment. That kind of freedom doesn't come from playing nice. It comes from ripping off the mask and dealing with what's real. And yeah, it's scary because once you tell the truth, once you stop lying to yourself about how, okay? Things are, you've got to do something about it. And that's where most people pull back. That's where they go numb, distract themselves, scroll, drink, work more, talk less. Because the truth demands action. But I promise you this, truth is lighter than the lies you're carrying. And it's not as complicated as you think. It's simple, it's just hard. It's saying, you know what, I've been blaming other people, but I'm the one who hasn't followed through. It's admitting, I say I want growth, but I keep choosing comfort. It's confessing, I act confident, but deep down I still don't think I'm enough. And I'm tired of hiding it. That's radical honesty. And it takes courage most people don't even realize they have. But it's in there to yours, and when you tap into it, when you let go of the image and grab hold of the truth, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get real. And real is powerful. Because once you're honest, you can change anything. You can walk away from what's draining you. You can stop chasing things that never mattered. You can forgive yourself. You can set boundaries. You can finally start building a life that's aligned with you. Not the version of you think other people want. But none of that's possible if you keep hiding behind half-truths. Half-truths are comfort food for the soul, but they never satisfy. They keep you stuck spinning, always just a few steps behind who you could be. You don't need to figure it all out today. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need to stop lying to yourself. Start there, start with truth, because truth is where the fire starts, where clarity lives, where change actually begins. Emotion, it's not just a feeling. It's not just this thing that shows up out of nowhere and takes over your day. Emotion is energy. That's it. Energy and motion. That's literally what the word means, emotion. And you either learn to harness it or it starts to haunt you. Most people, they're haunted, not because they're broken, not because they're weak, but because they never learn what to do with what they feel. So they bury it, suppress it, push it down, slap a smile on their face and pretend like everything's fine, but it's not. Because that energy doesn't just disappear, it builds, it compounds, and eventually it explodes. Or worse, it eats you from the inside out. You ever met someone who snaps over something tiny? One comment, one look, one small thing sets them off like a bomb. That's not about the moment. That's about unprocessed emotion. That's years of emotion stored like dynamite behind their ribs, just waiting for a spark. Or maybe you're the one who goes numb. You don't rage, you shut down, you go quiet, you isolate, you stay busy, you distract. You avoid, and you tell yourself, I'm just tired. But it's not that you're tired, you're emotionally congested. That energy's still in there, it's just frozen. Paralyzed up, taking up space you need for creativity, clarity, and power. Emotion is not your enemy, it's your fuel, but only if you learn how to direct it. Look, every emotion you feel has a purpose. Anger, it shows up when your boundaries have been violated. Fear, it kicks in when there's risk or growth on the table. Sadness, it arrives when you've lost something that mattered. Even guilt, even shame. As dark as they feel, they all carry messages. But here's the catch, they only serve you if you listen to them, not live in them. Too many people are living inside old emotions, walking around with grief from 10 years ago, carrying anger from a conversation they never finished, stuck in a pattern because they never learned to let it move through them. And that's the thing, emotions are designed to move. That's their whole purpose. They're not meant to park. They're not meant to set up camp and stay forever. But if you don't give that energy a path, it turns toxic. It turns to anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, explosive reactions, and maybe worst of all, that low level, day in, day out disconnect from life. You know, the one where nothing's really wrong, but nothing feels truly right either. That's what it feels like to be haunted by emotion you never gave permission to move. But let me tell you, emotion is one of the greatest sources of power you will ever tap into. It's the reason we create the fuel for momentum, the juice behind every breakthrough. And when you learn how to harness it, you stop fearing it. You stop judging it. You ride it, you channel it, you get angry. Good. Use it. Don't lash out. Level up. Let it drive your standards higher. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it burn through excuses. You feel fear. Great. That means you're close to the edge of growth. Harness it. Step into it. Let it wake you up instead of shut you down. You feel sadness? Don't run. Sit with it. Listen. Learn, because there's wisdom in the wound, but you've got to stop numbing it to hear the message. When you honor emotion, when you feel it fully, not suppress it, not over-identify with it, just let it flow. You take your power back. That's when the haunting stops. That's when you stop carrying the weight of the past. That's when you start moving forward with clarity, not purpose, not panic. You can't outthink your emotions. You can't logic your way out of pain. You've got to feel it, but not to drown in it, to move through it, because every time you let emotion move through you without resistance, without shame, you come out stronger, clearer, more you. This isn't about being emotional all the time. It's about being fully alive. And fully alive people, they feel, they express, they release, they don't hold it in, they don't fake it, they don't walk around pretending like everything's okay while they're crumbling inside. You want power, learn to master your emotional state, learn to recognize the energy when it rises, learn to sit with it, speak to it, use it, turn it into motion, turn it into action, turn it into art, into truth, into whatever the hell you were born to do. Because at the end of the day, you've only got two options. You harness the energy or you get haunted by it, and one leads to freedom, the other keeps you in chains. You don't need permission, you don't need approval, you don't need someone to tell you're ready. You don't need a sign from the universe or a letter from some authority or 10 more people clapping for you before you take that leap. What you need is a decision, that's it. One real, no turning back line in the sand decision. And I know that might sound too simple, too small, like it can't possibly be enough to shift everything in your life. But let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting? Waiting for the right time, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for more confidence, more clarity, more money, more support, more anything. And you know what that waiting has really been? A delay tactic, not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, because some part of you thinks someone else has to give you the green light. Maybe it's a parent's voice still echoing in your head. Maybe it's your old boss, your old teacher, your old coach. Maybe it's society, culture, religion, social media. Maybe it's just this internal belief that says, I can't start until I'm certain, but let me hit you with the truth. Certainty doesn't come before the decision. It comes after. Clarity is not what you get before you move. It's what you build, because we've been taught wrong. We've been raised in systems that reward compliance, not courage. Be good. Be polite. Follow the steps. Do what's expected. Ask before you act. And that conditioning, it sticks. You grow up thinking you always have to earn your right to choose. Like freedom's something that's handed to you when you've been good enough, long enough. But life doesn't work that way. Power doesn't work that way. Power belongs to the ones who stop waiting. Power belongs to the ones who say, I choose. I'm in. I'm going, not because anyone said I could, but because I said I would. Look, there will never be a perfect moment. Never. The stars won't align. The fear won't vanish, the critics won't disappear. And if you keep trying to get everyone on board with your dream before you commit to it, you'll be stuck for the rest of your life. People are not gonna understand. Not right away, that's part of the deal. Some of them will doubt you, some will mock you, some will project their fear onto your path. And you've gotta be okay with that. You've gotta stop making other people's approval the price of your destiny. Because it's not their life, it's yours. And nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to magically show up and say, you're enough now, you're ready now. Here's the life you've been waiting for. That's your job. You want the business? Start building. You want the body? Make the change. You want the relationship? Show up differently. You want peace? Decide what you're no longer tolerating. Not someday, now. That's the power of decision. It collapses time. What you've been stretching out for years, dragging your feet on, overthinking, overanalyzing, it can shift in one moment. The moment you decide. And I'm not talking about a half-hearted, I'll try decision. I mean a real one, the kind that makes everything else irrelevant. The kind that says, I don't care if I'm scared. I don't care if I fail. I don't care if nobody gets it. This is my move. You ever notice how once you actually decide something, like really decide, it's like the universe starts reorganizing around that decision, opportunities open up. Energy shows up, people respond differently. Why? Because decision carries a frequency. It has weight. It tells the world, I'm not messing around. and the world listens. But indecision is death in disguise. It drains you. It keeps you in your head. It keeps you spinning, doubting, asking for opinions, procrastinating. And before you know it, years have passed and you're still standing at the same damn crossroads. You don't need another sign. This is your sign. You don't need more permission slips. You need to remember who the hell you are, the version of you that knows what they want, feels it in their gut, and finally gets tired of shrinking, stalling, and second guessing. You've got one life, one shot, one chance to burn bright, and you're not gonna do it by asking politely if it's okay. You don't wait for the door to open. You kick it in, because once you decide, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You can reinvent yourself in a moment. I know that sounds wild to some people, because we've been fed this slow, step by step, grinded out story about transformation. Like you've got to spend years healing, years prepping, years figuring it all out before you're allowed to shift. But I'm telling you, it doesn't have to take that long. Change doesn't live in time, it lives in decision. And decisions, they happen in an instant. See, we've been hypnotized by this idea that who we are is some fixed thing, that your past defines you, that your patterns are permanent, that the mistakes you made mean something unchangeable about your identity. But that's just a story. It's a script that was handed to you, and you've been reading it like it's the truth. But guess what? You're the author. You can drop the pen and pick up a new one anytime. You can say, you know what? I'm not that version of me anymore. You don't need permission. You don't need a long explanation. You don't even need to have all the answers. You just need a moment. A moment where you decide, I'm done living like this. I'm done shrinking. I'm done carrying that label, that guilt, that fear, that past. I'm not dragging that story one more day. And in that moment, everything starts to shift. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Identity is fluid. You're not locked in. You're not a product of your history. You're a product of your choices. And every single day, you've got the power to choose again. But most people, they live in repetition, not reinvention. They wake up and unconsciously become who they were yesterday. They replay the same thoughts, the same doubts, the same limitations. And they think that's just who they are, but it's not. That's just who they've practiced being. You're not stuck, you're just rehearsed. You've rehearsed insecurity, you've rehearsed fear, you've rehearsed settling. You've rehearsed playing small, dimming down, doubting yourself, thinking you're not enough. But anything that's been practiced can be unpracticed. Anything learned can be unlearned. You can reinvent the way you think, the way you speak, the way you walk into a room, the way you show up when nobody's watching. And no, it doesn't mean you'll never have fear again. It just means fear doesn't get to drive the car anymore. It means you choose who you're gonna be, not based on how you feel, but based on what you've decided matters more than your excuses. Reinvention isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about remembering who you really are under all the noise, under all the opinions, under all the years of playing by someone else's rules. You were born to evolve. You were born to outgrow the old skin. And yeah, sometimes that means walking away from who you thought you were before you ever saw who you could be. And sure, some people won't get it. Some people will question you. Who do you think you are to change? To start fresh, to walk away from that version of yourself. You know what? Let them ask. You don't owe anyone consistency with a past version of you that no longer fits. That version got you here. But it's not the one that's gonna take you there. Reinvention isn't fake, it's alignment. It's finally getting real about what you want, what you value, what lights you up. It's about letting go of survival mode and stepping into creation mode. And the beautiful thing, it doesn't require a massive life overhaul to begin. It starts with one new choice, one new standard, one new conversation where you show up differently. One moment of saying, I'm not who I was yesterday because I don't choose that anymore. You don't have to carry every mistake you've made. You don't have to explain every shift you feel. You don't have to wait until you've achieved something big to become someone bold. You can do it now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, because power doesn't live in the past. It doesn't live in the future. It lives right here, in your ability to say with full conviction, this is who I am now, not perfect, not polished, not fully figured out, activated, awake. That's what reinvention really is. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone true. Unleashing the real you. It's not just about you. It's not just about your goals, your dreams, your breakthrough. It's about the people whose lives will never be the same once you stop hiding, once you stop performing, once you finally let the world feel the truth of who you are. We think playing small protects us, that it keeps things safe, predictable, comfortable. But what it really does is rob the world of what we were born to give. Because here's the truth, you are the gift. Not the filtered version, not the one that says what's expected, not the one that's trying to fit in or keep the peace or make everybody else comfortable. No, the real you. The unedited, untamed, fully alive you, that's what this world's starving for. That's what breaks patterns, that's what cracks hearts open, that's what creates ripple effects that outlive you. But none of that happens until you stop hiding behind the version of yourself you think the world wants and start standing in the version that was wired into your soul from day one. And yeah, I get it, unleashing the real you feels scary, vulnerable, even dangerous sometimes. You've been burned before, you've been told to be quiet, to tone it down, to be realistic, to stay in your lane. And over time, that stuff builds up, it sticks, and little by little, you start to shrink, you start to doubt, you start to wonder if maybe being fully you is just too much. But let me ask you something, too much for who? Too much for people who never had the courage to be themselves. Too much for a world that rewards conformity and calls it success. Too much for systems that profit off your fear. Come on, you weren't made to be, just enough. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't placed on this earth to be a background character in your own life. You've got something inside you, something sacred, something real, and it's not there by accident. That fire, that voice, that way you see things, that's your medicine, that's your fingerprint. And if you don't unleash it, nobody else ever will. That's the cost of hiding. The world misses out. And this world, man, it needs the real you now more than ever. We don't need more copies. We don't need more polite. We don't more pretending. We need people who are on fire with truth, who speak with conviction, who walk in alignment, who dare to live without a mask, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. Because authenticity, it's not about perfection. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about being honest. It's about showing up anyway. And when you do that, when you live out loud, when you stop shrinking to fit someone else's idea of who you should be, you give other people permission to do the same. That's the gift. You become the catalyst. You become the mirror. You become the light in someone else's tunnel. Not by trying to save them, but by being brave enough to be yourself in a world that teaches people to forget who they are. And you know what's wild? The more real you become, the more magnetic you are. Because people are drawn to truth. Not the curated version, not the polished image, but the kind of raw, unfiltered realness that says, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. That's power. That's freedom. That's where connection starts, not from performance, but from presence. But here's the thing, you can't unleash the real you if you're still trying to be liked by everyone. You've got to let that go. You've got to stop negotiating your identity for approval, because when you trade your truth for validation, you lose every time. Maybe not right away, but deep down you'll feel it. That age, that emptiness, that quiet knowing that you left part of yourself behind. So no, this isn't just about being yourself. This is about being responsible with the gift you've been given. And that gift, it's your story, it's your presence. It's the way your heart beats for something deeper. And it's your job to share it. Not someday, not when you're more polished or more ready or more accepted. Now, right now, because there's someone out there waiting to hear your voice, waiting to see your courage, waiting to feel seen because you had the guts to be real. And maybe they'll never tell you. Maybe you'll never know, but you'll feel it. You'll know it in your bones, that your life mattered, that your voice counted, that you didn't just exist, you lived fully. That you didn't just take up space, that you filled it. So if you've heard anything today, let it be this. The real you, the bold you, the honest you, the on fire, fully alive version of you is not some far off fantasy. It's not buried in 10 more years of grinding or waiting for life to give you the green light. It's already in you right now. You were born with fire, not fear. You weren't made to live inside a cage built by conditioning, silence, or someone else's expectations. You were made to break patterns, speak truth, feel deeply, and decide who you are before the world tries to decide it for you. Because when you finally choose to stop waiting for permission, when you remember that identity is flexible, that your emotions are energy, not your energy, and that radical honesty is the doorway to real freedom, that's when you begin to live, not survive. That's when you stop existing in pieces and show up as whole. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs real ones. And the greatest gift you'll ever give this world is the unshakable, undeniable, unapologetic version of you that was always meant to be seen. Thank you for showing up today, and thank you for being willing to go there with me. Now take this fire and go become everything you already are.